Hello. This video is a response to somebody who requested I show them how I do the joints for my dolls, for my polymer sculptures and other things. So I'm just going to tell you, honestly, I make it up as I go along. It depends on the kind of sculpture I'm making, and it depends what materials I have handy. For example, this isn't really articulated, but this was one of my little critter creations I made. And it's actually baked in two pieces and the wings are separate. And at the time it just seemed like a good idea so that if anything was to fall down it would have a tiny bit of give to it so it wouldn't snap so easily. So those two separate pieces were made and then little tiny holes were poked through with a needle and then I tied it on. It doesn't look great, but I could have covered it up better if I wanted to. I tend to not mind showing the workings because it's kind of interesting. I find that kind of stuff interesting anyway. Another one of my guys has a wire armature that I made very, very loose, and it would be able to make a marionette if I had made it, specifically for that. This little guy, he's Tom the Tailor or something, and he has crazy hair and such. But even his hands are actually, I don't know if you can even see this very well. His hands are actually just made out of wireframe and then dipped in my secret magic solution to make strong fingers that wouldn't break if he fell down. But all he has literally is a wire armature. If I was to keep bending him, he would eventually snap because the wire doesn't have flexibility for very long. But then his elbows, I wanted his elbows to be very easily posable. So it's literally two looped pieces of wire that are doing this number. I don't know how to explain it any better than that, but I thought he was cute. So originally when I started making these, a friend of mine had the bright idea of using these because when you bake Sculpey, you're doing it at such a low temperature anyway that, a little bit of heat on this wood doesn't really do very much to it. Some of them, like this one in particular, has a wire frame, so it's even less susceptible to the elements. Some of them have like elastic in the frame, and that can get a bit dodgy because the rubber in the elastic tends to make it stretch and loosen and snap when it's cooking. But literally I sculpted polymer clay on these guys just straight onto the figure. I left the joints mobile and I baked it. And those ones actually were very successful. And I don't have any to show you because I left those all in Florida. And I'm in Northern Ireland now. So here's an example of one where I used parts of one of those dolls. And this would do for a marionette. The legs are not high quality legs because you don't see them, they're under a skirt. So they're just bits of wood. They don't even have joints to them, they're just literally in stockings that are knotted at the joint, and then I put a little sock thing over it to make it flesh colored. And because it's underneath the thing, underneath the skirt, you're never going to see that part. But the arms are literally those ones from those dolls, but this was one that had an elastic through it, so I couldn't bake this very well. I had to make the wrists separately, and I made holes in the little wrists, and I made the hands with the polymer clay, and then I looped it all together and tied a big gaudy red ribbon, which hides the fact that it's jointed together. Her body was made differently. I made her with a very standard old-fashioned doll's breastplate, which I probably can't show you because most of my clothing is usually attached to my dolls, but it's like one of those breastplates that's tied on to a stuffed body. I can't even get it centered in the camera. And there is a hole up through the neck that's about a pencil width. And so the fabric body, you can kind of see this knot here. No, you can't because I can't hold it in front of the camera. There's a knot here, and that was to tighten the string. And it's actually a piece of fabric that's threaded up through the neck, and it goes up into her head joint, and there is kind of a piece of cardboard, I don't know if I can show you, that makes the joint work, that makes it not grate together. And it's mobile enough that, and I've had to replace the cardboard once, but it's mobile enough that if I were to use this one for a marionette, it would be very, posable, and it would work very well. And the limbs were deliberately made to be very floppy because I thought it would make a pretty good marionette, but I never went any further with her. I just made her into a doll and she sits in the corner. And just as a tip, if you're making things with pixie ears, I recommend not using the skull, see how this one has Sculpey pixie ears on elastic? Well, I made these ones out of leather from a shoe and I painted them the right color. So I find that mix and matching my materials to suit the needs of the product kind of helps to make a more durable product, because if I had made the entire thing out of Sculpey, it would have been very fragile. Here was another experiment. I used masking tape to try and hold these together, because if I had molded this straight onto here, then straight onto the forearm, which is made of wood, then if it hit anything, it wouldn't have any give to it whatsoever, and the little fingers would snap a lot easier. And so a lot of my work is designed to not break as easily as my original work, which was very fragile. Coming to the last sculpture, I have others, but like I said, they're not here. She is one of my favorites because she looks more put together. I decided to go ahead and give her pierced ears, and the ears are held to the head by elastic, and there's a hole going straight through the head. And can you see the elastic? No. But it's like that, so that if she falls over, those guys are not going to get broken. And also it allows for, in photographs and stuff, you can pose them different ways. Now, I didn't put enough elastic in her neck. It is too flexible for my liking, but I did a ball joint like this. Not a ball joint. I don't know what you'd call that. But the neck goes up inside the head just enough that it keeps it on there but still movable. And then her body is actually sculpted in two pieces. Let's see if I can show you. She's got underpants and everything under here. The bottom part of her body was made separately so she could bend at the waist, and she was done with Sculpey type of clay over, what do you call that stuff? Tin foil, really. I pressed it really hard in there, and I made the sections separately so that even her waist, you can't really see it when I'm doing this, but her waist would have a move to it if I wanted to use some kind of puppetry to articulate her. But like I said, I never really got any further with trying to make puppets. Her arms are made the same way as the little tailor man. It's wire armature wrapped in some kind of a tape and then wrapped in stocking and tied on, and it works. It does the job very well, and it means that the form is robust and it's not fragile at all. I don't really know what else I can show you. I have no formal training in any of this stuff, and I don't know the proper terms. I just tend to make stuff up as I go along, and I use whatever's handy. Maybe, I don't know if you can even see anything from the legs. Actually, I think I can peel the stocking back. This will show you how silly it is underneath. But, I mean, the leg is covered with bloomers, and it has legging. I was going to use flesh-colored leggings, and then I just decided to go ahead and leave them black. I'm not doing a very good job of showing you. So you can see that the finished leg, you don't see any of the underneath stuff. This is actually how crap it looks underneath. It's a wire armature with masking tape, and then there's a loop at the end of the thigh, and then there's a loop at the top of the calf, and then its wire goes straight down into the foot. I baked it with the little feet. I baked the wire coming out of it at the right length, and then I just used the tape to soften the form and cover up all of the wire stuff. So I don't know if that was helpful. You're probably a lot more professional at this than I am, since you're asking those kind of questions. But I don't know, I tend to not have very much on hand and end up having to be really creative, and when I do that, it seems my products turn out better. So I hope that's maybe helped in some way or answered your question, and thank you for showing interest. So good luck with all that. Bye.